In this video, I am going to give you a few sex tips to conceive faster. So if you're new, welcome. First of all, my name is Karyna. I'm a full-time mom. I have 2 kids. Both of them were conceived naturally and very fast. Especially my first one, it took us just 1 try, as they call it, meaning 1 cycle, 1 month. And I have a 1-year-old who was conceived in 3 months because we decided to try a different method kind of thing, which I'll get into details later. But as soon as we came back to what we did the first time around, it happened. So I just hope that the tips I will share today will help you to conceive your baby faster. And the first thing I want to say is that to make a baby you have to have intercourse, and semen has to enter female's reproductive system, meaning male has to ejaculate into a woman's reproductive system, into a vagina. Let's get this straight out of the way, because you're gonna be surprised how many people are undereducated in this topic, unfortunately. As most of you know, I hope, the conception happens when the egg meets a sperm inside female's reproductive system. So eggs lifespan is about 24 hours, so that time is when you should have those 2 together, otherwise conception is not gonna happen. So how to do that? Well, it's very good to know your cycle. It's very good to identify your fertile window. When are you going to be ovulating? It's going to be different for everybody. And yes, there are ovulation kits, ovulation tests out there, and the second time around I tried them, and a lot of doctors and experts suggest having sex the day before or the day of ovulation, and that's pretty much you're good to go. Then you're gonna have a baby, right? But that was not the case for me. And whenever we tried that technique, doing it around ovulation, it wasn't happening. The thing is, ovulation tests tell you that your body is trying to ovulate, but not every cycle will have ovulation. Even in healthy women, not all the 12 cycles of the year will have, 12 ovulations. The test is not showing that you're ovulating. The test is showing that your body is trying to ovulate and might ovulate in the next 48 hours. So if you are trying to have sex only once during that time, you might miss ovulation. And then there is another side of it, when people trying to have sex every single day. Let's say I don't want to track my cycle, I don't want to get into the details how to find out when is my ovulation, I just want to do it every single day and then it's gonna happen 100%. Well, also does not guarantee making a baby. Your best bet is to have sex every 2 to 3 days, especially during your fertile week or so. That guarantees you making a baby as soon as you can. It does not mean it's gonna happen in the first cycle, in the first month, because it's not common to conceive in the first try, in the first month. It's actually considered normal if a healthy couple tries for a 12 months period. So don't be hard on yourselves there. But anyways, what we did is that we just came back to what we did the first time around. We had sex every 2 to 3 days and we conceived another baby in a matter of 1 cycle, 1 month. The thing is that men also need some time to restore the sperm and make good quality sperm. And if you have sex every single day, the quality of the sperm is not as good. Although, again, experts recommend that you should really stick to what's normal for you. So on average, people do have sex every 2 to 3 days. This is like an average couple, but then there are people who are okay having sex once a month. Well, for those people, they should try and increase the quantity of intercourses, especially during the fertile window. But if you do have sex every single day or every other day, that's just fine too. The key is this: don't stress. You should just let it go, enjoy yourself. Just keep in mind that you should be having sex in your fertile window. The fertile window is about a week leading to ovulation and 1 day after or so. Usually ovulation happens 2 weeks before your next period. Also, if you have an increased sex drive, that's definitely leading to ovulation. If your discharge, your mucus, your cervical mucus is looking like an egg white, it means that your body is getting ready to ovulate. The sperm can live inside of the woman's reproductive system for up to 7 days, mostly a couple of days, a few days. So that's why even if you had sex 2 days before ovulation, there will be some swimmers who gonna meet your egg. Something else I want to make sure about when I talk about not stressing too much is all of those myths when they tell you lay in the bed for another 10 minutes, put your legs up. Supposedly it does not help, but if this gives you peace of mind like it did to me the first time around, do it. I did not do it the second time around and it worked just fine. Another thing, peeing after sex. First of all, it's very good for you. It can protect you from urinary tract infections, and it won't reduce your chances of getting pregnant because, first of all, I'm sure some of you watching might not know this because I had friends who didn't know this. I didn't know this until a certain time in my life. We don't urinate from our vagina. We have a urinary tract opening for that. Yes, we do have not one but 2 holes. I know for some of you it's obvious, but for some of you it's a shocker. Definitely go pee if you have to, even better if you do. You don't have to stay in the bed for 10 minutes or so, and yes, some of the sperm will come out, but most of it will make its way inside, and that's all that matters. So don't stress about that. But again, like I said, if that gives you peace of mind, do that. Stay in the bed, put your legs up if you want to. It doesn't hurt. Let's talk about positions. It kind of goes hand in hand with those myths about holding your legs up and staying in bed. Unfortunately, there is no best position for making a baby. There is no proof that a particular position increases your chances of conceiving. So again, first time around, I thought that it's better to pick a position where the sperm will most probably stay inside, and the second time around, I did not care about it. So pick a position that you like and enjoy it, and don't stress it and don't overthink it. Another point, females' orgasm. Does it help? It's not proven to help. They say that it can potentially move the sperm faster inside, and then some other experts say that it can actually help to conceive a boy, but really it does not increase your chances. So let's recap. What should you do to conceive a baby faster? Have sex every 2 to 3 days, especially during your fertile window, which is about a week in the middle of your cycle. I suggest you stay calm, enjoy yourself, don't overthink it, and pick any position, get up from bed whenever you want, or stay in bed if it makes you calm. Go pee, don't worry about the sperm leaving your body. It managed to make its way in, and everything will happen on its own time as soon as you're calm, you're trying, and if it's been already more than 12 months, definitely talk to a doctor. Before that, don't worry and just keep having sex. Okay girls, this changes everything. Ready? This is Inito, and this is your future best friend. Thank you to Inito for sponsoring today's video, and thank you for reaching out and introducing this product to me so that I get to tell you about this. Remember back in the day when I was telling you that I don't recommend ovulation tests? Well, this is completely different. Inito tests all 4 important fertility hormones to be able to determine your fertility window and, wait for it, the best part, confirm your ovulation. Yes, this thingy can do that. Regular ovulation tests only tell you that your body was trying to ovulate, but did it actually ovulate? We don't know that. That gave me major frustrations in my second trying to conceive journey. I thought I was ovulating and I wasn't getting pregnant. Well, healthy women do have normal cycles without ovulation sometimes. So especially if you're trying to conceive when you're still nursing, like it was for me second time around, you can really benefit from tracking your fertile window and ovulation, because lactating women usually have irregular periods. And of course, if you are just trying to conceive and you're not breastfeeding, you definitely will benefit from knowing when exactly is those few important days. And even if you're not trying to conceive and just want to get some insight into your cycle, maybe you're trying to go the natural family planning way, this monitor will be very helpful for you. It comes with this device that you connect to the app and to your phone when you take the test. You also have the test strips, the urine cup, and the app walks you through everything. It even has the timer for you. You put in your previous period days and it tells you when you have to be taking the tests to identify your fertile window and then actually confirm your ovulation. I was a little intimidated by the fact that I need to figure out this whole new device thing, because it's like something you have to click on your phone and then the test, and like seems like a lot of technology going on, which I'm sure there is a lot going on, but it was a no-brainer. If you ever taken a pregnancy test, like there is nothing new for you. And also like setting up the app and all the videos and timer and everything they have there, I was like, whew, that was so much easier than I thought it would be. I was almost like preparing myself, spending a ton of time figuring this out to show you guys and make sure I've done it right. But yeah, that was quick. I'm so excited. Here it shows me something. Low fertility, that's what I thought anyways. Ta-da! You have low fertility today. Levels of estrogen and LH have not risen yet. This means that you are not your fertile window and your chances of pregnancy are low. The app will ask you to take further tests to detect the rise in hormone levels. I used it for this cycle and it's amazing. It actually confirmed that I ovulated this month, and it actually made me even more in tune with my health and my body, and I can see how the rise in hormones impacts my moods and my sex drive and my energy levels. This is so interesting to watch. I'm gonna give you the look at my app and at my charts. So here is my little calendar of this cycle. You can see the period days and then the days when I was supposed to track. The red dots mean I had low fertility, then there were green dots, and then there was that star that meant that I was in the peak of my fertility, and it told me, I think that day or the next day after I took the test, that we confirmed your ovulation, and that was kind of exciting, even though I'm not trying to conceive. And then after that, the last test I took was low fertility. You can see the red dot over there, and here you can actually take a look at the charts and see all the rises and fall downs of your hormones. Inito is very supportive. They're actually creating a community on Facebook. They have their group where you can chat with fellow trying to conceive mamas, and they also have their experts who can help you with understanding these charts. App explains you everything. It's very simple. It tracks everything for you. It reminds you about the days when you have to take the test. It reminds you to actually make love, as they say, and it also gives you some really helpful tips, especially if you're new to this fertility and trying to conceive world. You will definitely benefit from all of this info, and this is not intimidating at all. So today I will rapid fire at you 20 earliest pregnancy symptoms I had in both of my pregnancies, so that you can determine whether there is a baby in your belly sooner than the tests can. So the first and probably one of the most common earliest pregnancy symptoms is mood swings. And yes, they do start right off the bat before your missed period, and you will definitely notice how different you feel emotionally. You will be easier to cry, you will be more irritable, you might be having actual mood swings where one day you're feeling borderline depressed, next day you're happy and energetic. I was on the verge of tears every time we would have a little argument with my husband. I was on the verge of tears every time I feel sad for myself because something in life seems hard. And yes, when you do feel those PMS symptoms before your actual period is coming, you may be more emotional, but these extra emotions come much earlier than usually PMS does. So this is how you can tell the difference. Another very unstable sign is your appetite. It can be lower and then higher next day, lower and higher. You can definitely feel difference in your appetite. For the most part, we hear about women getting more hungry, again, just like before our period, but that starts earlier than that. And from my experience, I did also feel lower appetite here and there. So swings in the appetite kind of thing, very noticeable and an easy to tell sign. Then headaches. Headaches and also dizziness, lightheaded, feeling lightheaded after doing a little bit of physical work, after walking, feeling dizzy all of a sudden, more sensitive to like gloomy, cloudy weather. Definitely felt it both times. Also very noticeable and easy to tell signs that you might be pregnant. Then there is hot flashes and chills. You might be having hot flashes out of nowhere when you're literally sitting on the couch, and then you can be feeling chills. You know that feeling when you are just getting sick, which can really worry you because you don't want to get sick, especially in the beginning of pregnancy. But if you do, it's still okay. It's not the end of the world. Talk to your doctor. So if you're feeling hot flashes out of nowhere, if you're feeling chills here and there, totally could be a pregnancy sign. And then there is something you better get used to: wanting to sleep more and feeling mildly fatigued. So it's not the kind of fatigue that you will probably feel in your first trimester, but it is similar. So if you are already pregnant, you will notice yourself wanting to sleep in, you will notice you want to take naps, and all of this is happening before you can take a test and see that big fat line. Yes, you can notice all of this right off the bat. Your body is working so hard on creating that human, so of course your body makes you want to rest, and that fatigue is something that can kind of start preparing you for your pregnancy. So if you do notice that you have lower energy levels, that you want to sleep more, going to sleep earlier, sleeping in, naps, all of these can be signs that you are pregnant. Now we're moving on to more of a TMI symptoms, but you're here for them, right? So get ready. First, let's talk about cramping and pains. So lower abdomen pain, back pain, lower back pain, cramping here and there, usually on one side. All of these kind of like menstrual pains and that overall feeling we usually get when we are on our period, like the first and second day, when like everything is hurting and you feel bloated, and pressure in the lower belly and bloating. Yes, you're gonna feel and look very bloated. So no, it's not a baby bump yet, unfortunately, and just feeling uncomfortable. Yeah, pregnancy makes us feel uncomfortable so often. So definitely watch out for all of those period-like feelings, and especially watch out for those implantation symptoms, which can be the sign that the fertilized egg is moving through your fallopian tube to your uterus, and you can be feeling mild cramping on one of the sides of the lower abdomen, like really low, and that can be followed by implantation bleeding. Not everybody gets it. I didn't get it second time around, and it can be scary, it can be confusing, and I've made a whole separate video on that. I will link it up here in the description below. Watch it after this one is done. I go into all the details because I think this is like the most for sure sign that you are pregnant, and that is happening to you around 8 to 10 DPO, days post ovulation. So I'm not gonna get into details here, but a tiny bleeding, a few drops of brown pinkish blood is signs of implantation, meaning signs that you are pregnant. After that, you can definitely see a change in your discharge. It's gonna become that creamy pregnancy discharge that you will be having throughout your pregnancy, and that's kind of closer to your missed period. Also, I have a couple of more pregnancy signs for those of you who might be breastfeeding. I felt more protective over my body. You don't even have to be breastfeeding. You might just have a toddler around. If your kid or toddler or anybody kind of hits you by accident, you can feel kind of aggressive. That's how I felt. I started feeling strong breastfeeding aversions, which was not fun. It was very hard on me mentally, but that's what our bodies do. And also I did feel, you know, other changes like sensitive nipples, and I decided to make this separate particular video about just implantation signs, because I know that many of you who are trying to conceive, just like me a few years ago, search exactly that: signs of implantation, because when you know that implantation happened, that's when you know you're pregnant, before you're big fat positive, and that's when you can potentially take an early test and see that line. So let me share with you my implantation symptoms I had the first time around, because I was lucky enough to have them the first time around. That's when I was 90% sure I was pregnant, and I still had 1 week until taking the test. I'm not so lucky to don't really have them the second time around. So we're gonna concentrate just on that, but I do have full videos about all the 2-week wait symptoms with my first and with my second. I will link them down below. What were those implantation signs? There are 2 very particular and very much for sure signs that the egg is about to implantate and is implanting. And the first one is mild cramps in your lower abdomen, usually on one side. They feel kind of like your period cramping, or maybe ovulation cramping as well. You might have experienced that before, or maybe you're the lucky one who never experienced period cramping, which let me know in the comments below if you exist. Say hi. So most of us know how period cramping feels like on the one side, because the egg that was fertilized in one of your fallopian tubes, either on the right or on the left, will be moving through the tube in order to get to the uterus to implantate in there. So with my first, I started feeling the implantation cramping at around 8 and 10 days DPO. First day it was for like an hour, so it was really noticeable, and then here and there for the next couple of days, and then after that I've got the second symptom that told me for sure that I'm pregnant: implantation bleeding. So how does implantation bleeding look? Because it's so easy to get confused and think that your regular spotting, or maybe not regular, but just the spotting before your period, is implantation bleeding. And this happened to me even after I've been through a pregnancy. My second time around, when we were trying to conceive, for the first months I was convinced I was pregnant, and I even had the spottings that I usually don't have before period, and I was hoping it was implantation bleeding, but it was not. And there was one very clear sign that it was not implantation bleeding, and I didn't want to believe that, but you should know. If you're spotting first reddish, bright red, it's not implantation bleeding. And if it increases, and if it becomes heavier, or you wet a panty liner, this is not implantation bleeding. Implantation bleeding is a barely pink or brown discharge at around 10-12 days DPO. That's when it happened to me, at least. DPO stands for days post ovulation, in case you're new to this world. And if you know when you ovulated, that will help you to determine much faster and much better when you should take a test and whether your symptoms are implantation symptoms or not. But if you don't know when you ovulated, you most probably know when your last period started, and you might know your usual cycle length. Ovulation usually happens in the middle of the cycle, so anywhere from day 14 to 16. I know it's broad, but this is at least some information for you, because unfortunately so many of us are undereducated on this topic of our bodies and our cycles. So there is that side note. It's a very small amount. Often it's mixed with your like mucus discharge that you usually get at this time of the cycle. Sometimes it's hard to notice it, but if you're looking for it, you're gonna notice it. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen to all of us, and it doesn't even happen every single time you get pregnant. Like I said, with my second, I did not have any implantation bleeding, or at least maybe I didn't notice it, because it can really be that tiny. Why is it happening? Because the egg that already traveled to your uterus is implanting into the lining, and of course, because it's, you know, like digging in, there can be a tiny bleeding, and by the time it actually goes down, the blood gets brownish because it's, you know, old blood, or again, because it's not your bright red period that is flowing, it can also be pinkish. That's the first thing Google tells you when you Google implantation bleeding, that it has to be brown or pink, so watch out for that. Another detail, I experienced that implantation bleeding or implantation spotting every day a little bit for like 5 days, and I got my first positive on the 4th day after I saw this spotting for the first time, about 4 days before my missed period. It was a barely noticeable line, but it was there. If you had these symptoms, or at least one of these symptoms, I think you can try and take a test. better and very sensitive one, an early response one, so you make sure you can see that line, because that's when pregnancy starts, and when the hormone of pregnancy starts producing, when the fertilized egg travels from fallopian tube into your uterus and implanted in there. That's the start of the pregnancy, speaking medically, which for me personally, I think life began at the point where the sperm met the egg. But you see, there is like a way they have to go to implant, and that's when you consider carrying a baby. But most importantly, that's when you can detect the pregnancy, and that's when that hormone that tests are checking for starts to produce. It might take a little while for tests to determine it. Try the early responses, some other very sensitive tests, or just wait a couple of more days, because most probably if you had these symptoms, there is a baby in your belly. I'll show you my pregnancy test line progression, and hopefully this will be interesting and helpful to those of you who are waiting for their big fat positive now while still breastfeeding their other kids and also not having regular periods. If you have been watching a few of my latest videos, you know that it was our 3rd month of TTC and I was not getting my hopes up. Why? I share more in this video. So I did not test very early. I did my first test at 10 DPO, days post ovulation, and that's when I received my first faint positive. But I only assumed that I was 10 DPO because, again, if you've been following along and know about how my cycle have been, spoiler alert, it has been irregular, very much. And I have a few videos on that too, I'll link them here. So I assumed that I was 10 DPO, and I unfortunately don't have actual tests. I just lost them, and this is so unfortunate for me because like I have the tests from Michaela's pregnancy and I want to keep those as well. But I'll keep looking because I couldn't throw them away, like I wouldn't do that. What I have is pictures of those tests, which I will be inserting here, which actually better because with the time, the line get darker and darker, and those line progressions that you see a lot here on YouTube when everybody straps their test to a piece of paper, usually they film much later, so they might not be as accurate, so I figured pictures would be even better. So also I wanted to show you which tests I have been using, and for the most part I have been using those Amazon Easy at Home cheapy tests, and I found them to be very nice. So this is a kit with ovulation tests. The blue ones are ovulation tests and the pink ones are pregnancy tests. They seemed pretty accurate for me and they showed my first positive pretty early. But why do I think I was 10 DPO, by the way? Because I've been taking those ovulation tests right here, and they told me that I should be ovulating somewhere on the day 15, 16, 17 of my cycle. So I assume I was 10 DPO because that's what my ovulation tests told me, and also I rely on some of those signs that my body gave me, like breast tenderness and the change in my discharge. And one of those tests that I'm gonna be showing you today, I did with this. This is a generic brand from CVS of those first response ones, and this is called early pregnancy test from CVS. I use them with Michaela. I got first positive with Michaela with these tests, and they are pretty sensitive. I would say that they're a little more sensitive than these, and I'll show you why. So here is a picture of my first test at about 10 DPO. From my experience, this line is pretty noticeable for 10 DPO, so I could be very much 11 or 12 DPO at that point, but I took that test not in the morning. Like I said, I did not even think of testing, just somehow that thought came to my mind in the middle of the day, and I tested at like noon. So as you might know, they recommend testing with your first morning urine to get more accurate results. So that's what I did. The next day, I used my first morning urine with these tests, and I'm gonna insert a picture right here. And you can see that that line is really noticeable and really dark. If on the first one it's pretty faint, and as you probably know, again, even the faint line means that there is a baby, but you always kind of doubt it because it's so faint. What if this test is not accurate or something? So I did take the early response, and I was very happy to see that. So after that, I have been testing almost every single day until 17 DPO. So let me insert those pictures. So here you can see 13 DPO, 14 DPO, 15 DPO, and 17 DPO. I did not test at 16 DPO for some reason. And as you can tell, all of those tests have been getting darker and darker and darker, and that's exactly what you want to see. That's why I have been testing every day, just to confirm that the pregnancy is hopefully healthy. Again, the pregnancy test cannot tell you exactly if you're having a good placement of your embryo, if you're not having an ectopic pregnancy or things like that, but still, it's very reassuring, and you believe in it more and more every time you test. So I loved to see that, made me very happy and calm. So the next time I tested, it was about in a week after my supposedly missed period, maybe like 23 DPO or about around that, and you can see how this line is so much darker than the control line, and that was beautiful. So my biggest advice for you who are breastfeeding and don't know exactly when they're ovulating, try to do ovulation tests. They can give you an idea, but don't rely on them. Also listen to your body, and you can very much start to see faint positive much later than 10 DPOs, and it happened to me. It means that you have ovulated much later, and my advice is you can keep testing if that does not stress you. But I know it's so hard to don't take those tests when you're trying to conceive, but there are many stories on the internet, for even for those who were not breastfeeding, even for those who had regular periods, they haven't received their positive until 15 DPO and haven't received their big fat positive until like 20 DPO. So stay calm. I wish you luck. Make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel, hit the bell icon, and I'll see you next week.